Funk the Cajun Blues. This has got to be one of the most recognizable banjo tunes of all time from the incredible 1992 album Time to Time by the one and only Gerry O'Connor. Before we get started, let's talk about a couple of essential techniques. First one is a string bend. Seriously, to do this, play the note and then bend it. But you gotta do it with feeling. The second essential technique for Funk the Cajun Blues is a string sweep. Works best on an upstroke. We're also going to look at some cross-picking techniques that are essential for this, some positional switches, and maybe most fundamental is why I tune my banjo EADA. Talked about this loads over the years. This is the tune that caused me to tune like this. The tune. As a young whippersnapper in Galway many years ago, I heard this tune and I wanted to learn it, particularly because I was playing in a show called Shimsa with my old music teacher Septa Byrne. Anybody who's from Galway or probably Ireland knows Septa. And she asked me to learn this tune for the show. And so when I heard it, I didn't realize that Gerry was in a completely different banjo tuning. I knew nothing about tenor tuning, which is C, G, D, A. And so I sat down to play the tune and I couldn't figure out the fingering, because in regular EADG tuning, this requires tons of bridging and stretching. And I was like, I can't do this. It just didn't sound right. And so, shout out to younger me. I experimented. I said, there has to be a way to do this. And I tuned my G up to A. And then suddenly all of these mad stretchy notes came into position and I was able to play the tune. So I highly recommend, very difficult to play this tune without it, to tune your G up to A. So you get open A and D tuning. This is my interpretation of the tune. When Gerry recorded it, there's loads of gorgeous instrumentation in it, fiddles and lots of other really cool stuff. But to play it as a solo piece, I had to improvise a little bit to fill in some of the gaps. So that's essentially what I'm doing. So it's probably ever so slightly different to what Gerry himself plays, and I've no doubt if Gerry played it today, it would be different from when he played it 10 years ago, and 1992 is a lot longer ago than any of us really like to consider at this stage. So this is my interpretation of Funk the Cajun Blues. There are three parts to this tune. The first part requires quite a bit of cross-picking and some string bends. The second part is where we're going to switch position, and the entire, well, not the entire, but the second part of the second part is much easier played in fifth position, and we're going to play quite a number of chromatic notes. Then we get to the third part, which is easy, and it's a joy to play, having come through the first and the second part. So let's jump in. If you're enjoying this content, go ahead, hit subscribe, drop a comment. The notification bell all helps. And thank you for watching. So here's the first part. It starts with a very dramatic string bend. All right, let's break all of that down. Starting off. The first section is pretty straightforward. When you're tuned to A, there's a little bit of a stretch to the G I use my pinky because I like to keep the E note on the D string, fret 2, for resonance. But that first section is pretty straightforward in terms of the picking. Here's where the cross pick is going to come in. Let's break this section down very slowly. This section has 3 parts. The first is picked down, up, down. Then we got 2 ups and a down, 2 more ups and a down. So it's down, up, up. So it goes down, up, down, up, down, up. And that carries that syncopated rhythm as well. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Down, up, down, up, down, up. So here's that first section again. And then the very last segment is cross picking 2. And when I say cross picking, I mean it's down, up, down, up, down, up. It's producing that syncopated rhythm, but it's cross picking in the sense that we have 2 strokes that are going in one direction, where normally I certainly would do alternate picking, down, up, down, up, down, up. And that's what I call cross picking. Worth noting for those eagle-eyed, when I'm picking normal picking patterns, my fingers are free from any planting on the head. Sometimes they graze and they run around the place, but they're not planted in any fashion. In order to do the double ups and the cross pick section in this, I do plant lightly with my pinky on the head, and it gives me just a little bit of stability. So here's the entire first half, nice and slow. It's worth noting, of course, that at the very last part of that first part, party part, this is a great party. This is my preferred method of catching fret 3 on both the low A string and the D string, and we're cross picking taking in the middle A string as well. So I just use 2 fingers to create that bridge, and then I slide it up 2 frets. You can do that in a number of different ways. The important thing is that you're creating enough space so that you can catch the open A string. The long E at the end of the part just gives you time to switch your fingers back, either for the repeat of the first part or to go into the second part, which we're going to talk about now. Start of the second part, again, we're into regulation picking, down, up, down, up, down, up. And the finger work is what we're going to talk about. Easy. Now we're we're switching to 5th position. This is standard 1st position. I think they call it in classical violin. When we move up to the 5th fret and we make the fret 5 our starting point for where our fingers are going, we call this 5th position. The second part of this tune is all in 5th position because of the half notes, the chromatic runs. So there's a lot of A and E, which would normally be open strings. And you could play it like that, but it doesn't sound as nice because the switch from the closed string to the open string sounds a little bit gawky, for want of a better word. So we'll play the whole thing in a closed position. Here's the whole second part, slow again. Now we're into the third part. We've made it. We're on the final stretch and we get to just really enjoy it. In this, we're going to have a couple of slides and pull-offs just to add that bluegrass flavor to the tune. So where does the string sweep come in? So when we go from that back to the first part. Let's play through the entire tune nice and slow so you can keep an eye on all of the picking and the fingering that's required. And of course, if you go to Patreon, you can print out the PDFs of this, and even better, watch it on video, scrolling notation on Sound Slice. Here's the whole tune, a little bit more pace. big thank you to Gerry O'Connor for writing what is a genius tune and for inspiring me as a young fella to play, to learn, to try something that seemed impossible and was a great, great advantage to me as a kid. I totally understand this is a very challenging tune, but break it down. Learn one part, learn the third part. Take each bit on its own. Learning new techniques, learning difficult techniques brings our playing on leaps and bounds, challenging ourselves to figure out how to make all of the notes with the left hand where it doesn't seem like it's going to work. You know, having to have the fingers nice and high so that we can play the two bottom strings and catch the open A string. All of these bring great advantages to our wider musical banjo playing. So take your time with it. It's definitely worth doing it. It's all notated and fully transcribed, tab, ABCs, all available on Patreon. And a big thank you to all my subscribers. There's over 300, lots more than 300 at the moment. And it gives me the opportunity to do this, to continue making banjo content. I love the banjo. I love teaching it. I love taking a crazy tune like Funk the Cajun Blues, learning it as a kid, and then get to create a lesson on it of, you know, all the things that I figured out a long time ago. God, well over 30 years ago. Shout out to my younger self. Well done for sticking at this one, because it's an awesome piece of music. Thank you for watching.